friends all over the world. Very warm welcome to Dr. Zia Ahmed YouTube channel. Today I'm going to discuss and critically analyze the chapter 11 of the novel To the Lighthouse by Virginia Woolf. Every one of us knows that Virginia Woolf is a modern writer and therefore many new trends are visible in her writing, and this chapter is specifically evidently showing this type of behavior of the writer. For example, in the beginning, I would say that it goes to talk about the novel, about the stories, and about the characters. And also, it goes to enter into the memory lane. And so, in that way, psychological analysis of different characters' minds and doing is taking place. And that is why one should consider this is most important chapter with respect to the modernism of Virginia Woolf. So, let's have a start by reading the first passage of this chapter. It says, "No," she thought, putting together some of the pictures he had got: a refrigerator, a mowing machine, a gentleman in evening dress. Children never forget. For this reason, it was so important that one said and what one did, and it was a relief when they went to bed. For now, she need not think about anybody. She could be herself by herself, and that was what now she often felt the need of to think. Well, not even to think, to be silent, to be alone, all the being and the doing. Expensive, glittering vocal evaporated, and one shrunk with a sense of solemnity to being oneself, a wedge shaped core of darkness, something invisible to others. Although she continued to knit and sat upright, it was thus that she felt herself, and this self, having shed its attachment, was free for the strangest adventures. When life sank down for a moment, the range of experience seemed limitless. Dear student, this paragraph, as it opens with the kind of idea that the children never forget. So, Mrs. Ramsay had to take care of the fact also that when people are speaking around the children do remember and react accordingly as well. During the start of the day, the event of not visiting to the lighthouse was taking place, and so in that way, she's upset the children would never forget. But then, when the children would go to sleep at that time, she thinks about herself. She thinks that the time is there to think about herself, that she can coil or curl under the bed and she can feel alone and she can be peaceful with herself, and in that way she can feel that she is alone. She wanted to do that, and as a result, although knitting continued, but she still remembered what she need to do, what she has to do in order to feel or enjoy her loneliness in her room. So the paragraph has two important things. One, that the writer is talking about the psychology of children, that they never forget. So the parents and the people around them must be careful that they are not revealing all type of information which is not to be known by the children. And in the same way, the thinking of Mrs. Ramsay that she would like to have her room, she would like to have the silence, she would like to be alone, is reflective of her another essay, A Room of One's Own, where Virginia Woolf advocated that a woman needs to have some money of her own and she needs to have a room of her own as well, and that same is reflecting here. And moreover, we can quote Huxley here as well, who has talked about the concept of self in his essay Education of an Amphibian, that the human being are of the mind that they possess and live certain selves, not one self, but plenty of selves. And as a mother, Mrs. Ramsay has got also many selves. For example, one self is which meets the husband, other self is which meets the children, other self is which meets the guest, and other self is going to be her own self. So in this way, analysis of the self, the psychology, and the behavior, that is all explained in this paragraph, which makes it a modern novel as well. So let us proceed towards the next paragraph in order to find out what is more important here. For example, here this paragraph, it says, "Not as oneself did one find rest ever. In her experience, she accomplished here something dexterous with her needles, but as a wedge of darkness, losing personality, one lost the fret, the hurry, the stir, and the rose to her lips always some exclamation of triumph over life. When things came together in this peace, this rest, this eternity, and pausing there, she looked out to meet that stroke of lighthouse, the long, steady stroke, the last of the three, which was her stroke. For watching them in this mood always at this hour, one could not be, couldn't help attaching oneself to one thing, especially of the things one saw." I'm sorry. Now, this paragraph again has two important things. One, that Miss Ramsey compares herself to the wedge of her darkness, and she also contrasts her behavior with the lighthouse. In the darkness, the lighthouse is occasionally sending rays of light, and that is affecting the mood and the working of this woman. This woman, although in darkness, is thinking about herself, is absorbed in herself, and maybe planning as well. Or sometimes she may be losing her personality into that, but then okay, again and again, the lighthouse light compels her go back in order to see what life is going to be. So here again, two selves are there. One is that one's internal self, other self is that with which one deals with the people. So in that way, Miss Ramsey also has got this capability that she can deal with the people, but she can be alone also. She can think about herself as well. So it is the self-analysis which is being done by the writer about the character of Miss Ramsey, which makes this novel to be the modern novel as well. And again, the next two passages are very important, which I'm going to read for the benefit of my students. Often she found herself sitting and looking, sitting and looking, and her work in her hands until she became things she looked at. That light, for example, and it would lift up on it some little phrase or other which had been lying in her mind like that. Children don't forget, which she would repeat and begin adding to it. It will end, she said. It will come, when suddenly she added, we are in the hands of the Lord. So, this paragraph also, when it is analyzed psychologically, the limitations of the human mind and working, the freedom which one enjoys, that has been discussed. And the ending of the passage paragraph suggests that we are in the hands of the Lord. That means that we are not that free as we want to be. The things have to happen, and as a result, they would happen. We cannot stop them. For example, children don't forget. It means that children would never forget what is happening with them or what kind of situation they are in. If we think that everything would end in that way, it will not end, it will continue to be there. So, even if one tries to stop the things from happening, one cannot, because we are not that free, we are in the hands of the Lord. And in the same way, this is Mr. Ramsey who continues to feel the kind of situation in which she is. For example, her hands are knitting, but her mind is working. Who said what and how it was said, and how she can cover up all that. This is going on in her mind. In the upcoming paragraph, she also talks about the similar things. For example, she says, not she had been trapped into saying something she did not mean. She looked up over her knitting and met the third stroke, and it seemed to her like her own eyes, meeting her own eyes, searching as she alone could search into her mind and her heart, purifying out of existence that lie, any lie. She praised herself and praising the light without vanity, for she was stern, she was searching, she was beautiful like that light. It was odd, she thought, how if one was alone, one lent to inanimate things, trees, streams, flowers, felt they expressed one, felt they became one, felt they knew one in sense one, or one felt an irrational tenderness. Thus she looked at that long steady light as for oneself. There rose, and she looked and looked with her needle suspended. There curled up off the floor of the mind, rose from the lake of one's being a mist, a bride to meet her lover. Very significant paragraph, because here, while knitting the socks for the boy of the lighthouse, Mrs. Ramsay is feeling engaged with the environment which she is in. For example, she says that she felt herself absorbing into the light, absorbing into the sounds and the appearance of that nature. And again, she felt also that she was looking at the light and she was actually looking at herself. Physically, she was looking at the light of the lighthouse, but psychologically speaking, she was looking at the light which was emanating out of herself. So, as the light of the lighthouse shows guidance and path to the people who have forgotten, in the same way, the light of the eyes of Mr. Ramsay is there to lead the people to their right way and to become as good and useful people in the society as possible. And this is what the role of Mr. Ramsay is going to be. So, lighthouse is not only a lighthouse; it is Mr. Ramsay also, who is living a life like that. So, because of that light, she feels that she is the part of nature, because in nature we have many things. For example, inanimate things, trees, streams, flowers, so many things we have. And when we live like that, as Mr. Ramsay is living like a light, she or we can become the light of the whole nature. So in this way, sometimes she feels that she is absorbed in it, and sometimes she feels that she's not. So, therefore, the writer again and again is trying to show the goodness of Mrs. Ramsay, how good, how pleasant she was, that she all the time was giving light to the people who looked towards her for the guidance or for the show of light in the darkness. So, that is the most interesting thing done in this paragraph. We can read this one as well. With her mind, she had always seized the fact that there is no reason, order, justice, but suffering, death, the poor. There was no treachery to be for the word to commit. She knew that no happiness lasted. She knew that. She knitted with firm composure, slightly pursing her lips and without being aware of it, so stiffened and composed the linen of her face in a habit of sternness that were her husband's past. Though he was chuckling at the thought that Hume, the philosopher, grown enormously fat and stuck in a bog, he could not help noting as he passed the sternness as the heart of her beauty. It saddened him, and her remoteness pained him, and he felt as he passed that he could not protect her. And when he reached the edge, he was uh, he was he was sad. He could not do anything to help her. He must stand by and watch her. Indeed, the infernal truth was he made things worse for her. He was irritable, he was touchy, he had lost his temper over the lighthouse. He looked into the hedge, into the intricacy, its darkness. Now, here is the paragraph where we are looking at Mr. Ramsay as well, who looks at his wife. And normally, beautiful looking, pleasant looking wife is stern, is hard in her appearance, and he thinks that something wrong has gone. And then he understands that what was that wrong that has caused the loneliness to his wife. The liveliness of his wife has ended. The place has been taken by the loneliness and sadness. And that was the thing he said to his son early in the morning, that they cannot go to the lighthouse. That was the truth spoken, and that was the temper which changed everything. And as a result, she was sad also. She blames himself, he blames himself, but he doesn't come and try to cure the situation, because he thinks that if he does so, the more scary things can happen towards his wife. So that is why he takes care of us and care of hers, and does not come forward to put the question, rather he tries to absorb and feel sad for that as well. Sternness on the face of Mrs. Ramsay is the other face of Mrs. Ramsay. That if she is good, she is pleasant, then she can be unpleasant, harsh, and stern as well if something bad happens. So, in that way, we are able to look at the physical face and body of Mrs. Ramsay, but also we are able to look into the minds of Mrs. Ramsay, what kind of woman she's going to be. So, a type of psychological analysis is given to us by the writer, and that makes the whole of this chapter again a very significant chapter with respect to the modernism that the writer has taken up. And now let us read the last paragraph of the chapter, which says, he turned and saw her as she was lovely, lovelier than ever, he thought, but he could not speak to her. He could not interrupt her. He wanted her gently to speak to her now that James was gone and she was alone at last. But he resolved, no, he would not interrupt her. She was aloof from him now. In her beauty, in her sadness, he would let her be. And he passed her without a word, though it hurt him that she should look so distant, and he could not reach her. He could do nothing to help her, and again he would have passed her without a word, and she not at that very moment given him of her own free will what she knew he would never ask, and called to him and talked and taken the green shawl off the picture frame and gone to him was he wished she knew she to protect her. So this is the paragraph. It's a very good type of friendship between the man and the woman, that the man takes care that he should not disturb his wife's feeling, and he also feels very sad why he should not disturb. So in this way he felt that perhaps he was leaving his wife in sadness alone, and that was happening because of things which happened during the day, and especially the incident of James. So that is why the husband is upset. He wanted to make the things cured, he wanted to compensate, but he could not, and that is why he didn't ask anything to her. Though she was happy that he didn't ask, but the same thing was present in the mind of that person, Mr. Ramsay, when he was in a different country. So in that way, the attraction, the similarity of feeling, the integrity of the couple is being pointed out. They're not only husband and wife, but they are going to be the people who are friends with each other. And as the friends can share anything in the same way, anything can be shared by these two people. They're not traditional husband and wife, but rather a non-traditional type of thing. And so it is different from the novel which is being taught by me in some other institution. Hope that you have understood the whole chapter, like the whole chapter, because it is all about the character of Mrs. Ramsay as is seen by the writer with reference to the the engagement of the writer with modernism, modern novel, and the different factors which involve in the modern novel. So in that way, the whole chapter ends here. Hopefully, the students have got some benefit out of that. If so, then do not fail to hit the subscribe button as well as the kind of button which is for record, which is for writing likes, or which is for giving any type of comments. So thank you for watching. Hope to see you in some next video.